Hi, I'm Greg Zorian, third generation master barber. Today we're going to do a major transformation for this gentleman here. What we're going to do is we're going to layer the top, we're going to bring his line up a little bit, we're going to undercut this side all the way to the back left corner, and this side here where we have been undercutting it, we're going to disconnect it. We're going to take all this hair off and we're going to shave right up to the part, and then we're going to cut the part in. So we're going to completely change his haircut. So all we're going to see from the front and from this side is we're going to use pomade and hairspray and brush it all straight back. And then, so the key here is with this hairstyle is this transition area right here in this point. So when we shave up to this point and this blend, that's something that we really got to focus on and pay a lot of attention to. So when he styles himself, he gets it just right. So again, we're going to cut all this off. We're going to disconnect it, and we're going to undercut the other side, and we're going to taper out the back, and we're going to layer the top, and then we're going to bring the line up just a little bit. It's creeping down a little bit too far. So to start out, I'm going to use a regular comb, and we're going to start layering the top. I'm going to use a traveling guide. So I want to pull that hair up to 90 degrees. I'm going to take maybe 1.5 inches off. So when I say a traveling guide, that means I'm not going to drop the hair. I pick it up. So either my fingers are holding it or the comb is holding it. And now so the hair doesn't stand up in the back, what I do is I come across the back right where the crown is, and that traveling guide becomes stationary, and I pull that hair right up to that. I want to have a nice clean parting. And then I can see my guide right underneath right there, and this is the back. So what that'll do is that'll keep the back from standing up. I don't want the back too short where it's standing up. We need that gravity to hold the back down. And the reason why I'm pulling the front up to 90 degrees is that slightly over directs the front, so that gives him more hair in the front to work with as he brushes it back. So then as I get to the back, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to comb across the back. And we're going to pull the hair straight up. There's our traveling guide underneath, which becomes our stationary guide. Again, traveling guide travels back, and it becomes stationary when we stop and we pull the hair up to it. And now since his hair is so long, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one more section on the side, just above the parietal area, right there. That's that round bone right there, and make sure there's no hair there to cut. So as I elevate my fingers parallel to the floor, I know a lot of people are always concerned. They ask me, well, what about the corner here? Am I going to cut it too short? As long as you elevate your fingers to parallel to the floor, right there I can see my guide, and right there I can see my guide from the center. So I just follow my guides. They tell me what to do, and I just cut what I see. Now I'm going to come across. Okay, so now we started in the center and we worked our way over. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the center and work our way to the left. We want to make sure that we keep our fingers parallel to the floor. So I find my center guide right there. My fingers are parallel to the floor. Not as much to cut over here. Traveling guide becomes stationary. Okay, so now we have the top layered with the front long enough to push back. So now we're going to come to the back area, the crown area. And I'm going to start right about here and get my guide, because the rest from here forward, from the part forward, right there in that corner, we're going to shave off. So I want to start right there angle my fingers just a little bit so that guide on the top doesn't go into my fingers and I don't cut it. And I'm going to use that same traveling guide and work my way around. So there's two ways to do this. So you can stand in one spot, make two cuts, and turn the chair, or you can make two cuts and move your feet a little bit. If your work gets too far out in front of you, what's going to happen is you're going to start drifting down, and you're going to wind up longer towards the front. So 2 sections, and then move your feet or turn the chair. And I can always see the previous guide in my fingers. It's right there. I'm taking very small sections. The smaller the sections, the much more accurate your work is going to be, and you can see your guide a lot better. Now, when I get to the temple here, if you remember on top, I pulled it up to 90 degrees, which was right here. And that lines up with my finger. So now my traveling guide becomes stationary, and I pull the front back to that, and I line it up. Now I'm going to take one more section down and see if there's any there to cut. Not much. We want to leave enough hair so we still see that line when we push the hair back. So I'm doing the same thing, just the next section down. And then as I get to the temple area again, I want that traveling guide becomes stationary. I pull the front right back to it. There's just a little bit there, not much. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to take this and bring it up just a little bit because that's getting a little long there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clipper comb and come underneath and angle it to 90 degrees. I'm using the 3-0 position on my adjustable clipper. And I want to blend that into the front. I'm angling the comb away a little bit. I want the front longer because the front is going to brush, it's all going to brush back and it's going to fit in. So if it hangs down a little lower, that's okay. I don't want it the same length because it's not going to be long enough to brush back. Okay, we just spin the chair, and the reason why I like to spin the chair is the whole time I'm doing this, I'm looking in the mirror and making sure it's even as I come all the way around. Make sure my part is in the right spot. And I'm not going to come all the way around to the left side because we're going to shave that off. So every time I use the clipper, I want to make sure I always brush it off. Now I'm going to use my detachable blade clipper with my 1.5 blade. I know this is the blade that he likes underneath, so that's the blade length we're going to use on the side, and it's also the blade we're going to use to cut off the hair on the left side. It's going to leave a nice blended cut. So since we're working with more hair, I want a bigger comb to hold that hair out of the way. So very slowly, we're just going to shave up. And we just want to shave up, make sure we keep it even. So you can see where we shaved up to it last time. Want to bring it to the same spot. Now with a metal blade, you're going to be tempted to want to come behind the ear like this. You don't want to do it because a metal blade, if you hit the back of the ear, it's going to cut the ear pretty much every time. It doesn't have a plastic attachment on it to protect it, so I always have my finger protecting the ear. So I hold my ear down with the finger. That way the blade will hit my finger instead of his ear. Okay. So now we got a nice even cut underneath here, and then we'll come back with our adjustable clipper again and fade out the sideburns a little more. It's the same length, they're just a little darker because that's his beard hair. So I like to get my guide underneath first, get that taken care of, and then I'll shave up. I don't want to shave up blindly underneath because I could wind up going too high, and I don't want that uneven underneath. Alright, so we got that big comb holding the hair up and out of the way. And we're just working our way around. Now when I do a haircut, one of the things I always tell my apprentices is I like to keep the hair neat when I'm cutting the hair. And what I mean by keeping the hair neat is always like to keep it combed or brushed in the style that the client is going to wear it. So that way I can always tell if I'm doing the right thing or not. Okay, so now it's very important, I'm going to spin them around here so you can see the part. It's very important that we get this part in the exact right spot before we do this, especially when we're doing a major transition. So when I comb the hair straight back, you can see the natural break. We want to make sure that that's lined up really even. So all the long pieces are over that way. Because we only have one shot at this. Once we cut it off, it's gone. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to protect all that hair with the comb, and we're going to take it all off. And as the hair falls on the face, you want to keep your client comfortable. Keep the hair off his face. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking that last tooth of the clipper blade, and just coming right back. Making sure we get all that hair, and then when we cut the line in, we can fine tune it a little bit more. Okay, so as I said, we're going to come back right there to that point, to the corner, and then we have to blend it in from there. So now what we have to do, and this is the tricky spot because clients generally have a tough time styling their hair, especially when you're going from longer to shorter. Got to get that faded in nice. So I'm just going to kind of angle the comb out so I can go from shorter to longer. So instead of the fade going from here to here, the fade is going to be more of on a diagonal. So the idea being we have this fade on a diagonal, and when he brushes his hair back this way, when it comes over, it doesn't hang way over. And this side we want to look natural. So again, this is the hardest part of this haircut, is getting that in the exact right spot. And then we don't want to round it in too much where all those shorter hairs are going to be sticking up. So this is where your mirror definitely comes into play also. And then we're going to do a little freehand work. Okay, so where this hair kind of hangs down and goes over, he's got a really interesting part. I'm just going to lean your head back just a little bit this way. So he's got this swirl that happens here. So we're going to have to I'm going to have to teach him how to style this. What's going to help is gravity. Gravity is going to hold it down. Longer hair weighs more, so that will hold it down. So we're going to have to teach him when he styles it to use the extra pomade. And he also likes to use a hairspray over the top to keep it crunchy and have a lot of hold for all day, but we need that length. I don't want to go and start trying to layer this because it's going to stick up and it's going to come down more. And I don't want to cut half the back off. So leaving that long is going to be the trick. So that's why, if you notice, I was kind of doing it a little bit at a time, slowly. I joke with a lot of clients a lot of times. I just kind of keep cutting the hair a little bit at a time until it looks good. You know, even though it kind of sounds funny when I tell a customer, they think I'm joking around, I'm really serious when I say it, because a lot of times that's the case. I don't know how the hair is going to lay until I get in there and start cutting it. So now what I want to do is I want to start to fade the hair around the edges and work on that before we style it. All right, so we're going to brush the clipper off. And the next clipper we're going to use is our adjustable clipper, and we're going to start to taper around the edges. So I'm going to use it in the open position over the sideburns. And because the sideburns are thicker, that should get it the same color, even though it's shorter than the sides. Because it's a sideburn hair and it's thicker, it looks darker. Then we're going to fade out the neckline. I'm in the open position. I'm using a scooping motion. So one hand on the barber chair, spinning the chair slowly. Now I'm going to close it halfway and come back. Now I'm going to close it down all the way and come back again. That's going to fade it out nicely, and when we come back with the outliner, we're going to clean up the bottom and give them a nice clean diagonal line on the sides. Okay, so then again, same thing on this side. Want to fade out that sideburn. And now while I'm here and I'm looking this way, I can see a few hairs sticking out, so we're going to do a little freehand work and clean that up. So I know we all want that perfect haircut, but at some point we got to know when to just kind of, when we're there, when we're close enough, and when to stop. That's just as important as making sure that everything is just right, is knowing when to stop. Okay, so now we're going to clean that off, and we're going to grab our outliner, and we're going to work around the edges here before we cut the part in. So I want to make sure that his chin is parallel to the floor, so when I make a line here, it's nice and straight. So I pull that ear down, I can see the hair popping out. And we're going to keep it right on the natural hairline so we get that nice diagonal line, and then we're going to shave to it. So I want that nice clean line all the way around the ear. Then we're going to pull the cape down and shave him right to the, shave up right to the taper, but not into the taper. So I always want to shave up with my trimmer. I never want to take it and drag it down, because the way the blade is constructed, the hair feeds into the stationary blade while the cutting blade cuts it. If you turn it around, the blades are so close together, you're in danger of that blade touching the skin and irritating the skin. So same thing on this side. We want to make sure that we are not on the, we're not going in off the natural hairline. You want to keep it right on the natural hairline. And then we're going to pull that ear down so you can see that little bit of hair pop out. And then back to parallel. Chin parallel to the floor so we get a nice even cut on the sideburns. Okay, I'm going to brush them off again. And then eyebrows are always very important also, so I'm going to comb his hair out of the way and I'm going to check his eyebrows. He's got a few sticking out, so we're going to go ahead and trim those. Nothing crazy. I'm using a thick comb, so we're not going to cut them too close, but we're just going to get rid of the long ones. There's a little bit in the center. We take care of that. And brush all the hair off the sides. Make sure we got it all. And then before we go move ahead to the style, we want to cut a nice straight, thin part line in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I want to comb all that hair out of the way. I want to turn my clipper upside down. And I let the clipper do the work. This particular clipper, as with most trimmers, operate at 5,500 to 6,500 strokes per minute. So all you have to do is touch it to the scalp and let the clipper do the work. If you start wiggling the clipper up and down like this, you're going to wind up with a line too wide. So I comb the hair out of the way. Rest my head to steady, rest my hand on top of his head to steady my hand. And I'm going to come right back to where his pivot is, which in this case we can see easily is right there in the back left corner. And then I'm going to turn the clipper the opposite direction. So this way, you're cutting the hair in two different directions so you can get it nice and close. And again, I'm not wiggling the clipper, so we have a nice, thin, straight line, which is really going to pop when we style the hair. All right, so now when I pull that out of the way, you can see that real nice. We have that nice thin line, nice and clear. You can see it easily. And now the last thing I want to do is make sure we don't have any long hairs there. I'm going to use my pinky finger as a guide, and I'm going to rest that on the head, and I'm going to come real slow and angle the clipper in just a little bit to get any long ones that might be hanging out. All right, so now before we style them, we're going to brush them off one more time. So the first step, I'm going to use a pomade. So this is a water-soluble pomade in my Zorian of New York men's hair care line. It's extremely water-soluble, so it rinses out real easy, but yet it has a lot of hold. It'll actually rinse out before the shampoo even hits the hair. It's infused with all natural ingredients, including ginseng and jojoba seed wax, which gives it the shine. It's made right here in the USA, and it's not tested on animals. So for longer hair, what I want to do is I want to take a nice good amount, a full knuckle amount, and we want to get that through there real good. So you want to emulsify it in your hands, get it across the top, and then underneath, through the underneath layer, all the way down to the roots, especially in the back. And then to style it, I'm going to use a pick because the hair is longer, and a pick is going to go through it a lot easier than a comb or a brush. So the teeth on the pick are a lot longer, so it's going to get it through there nice and easy. And as I was saying in the back, with the fade that we have there in the back, right here, we just push it all to the side, and it fades right in. And then what I do with my client is I'll show them with the mirror exactly how to style it and what to do. Because obviously we want it to look good when he leaves the shop, but we also want him to be able to duplicate the style on his own. And then the next thing I do, just to enhance the hold, is I take some of my finishing spray, and this is infused with aloe vera and provitamin B5. We put aloe vera in it as just a skin softener, because all hairsprays do have alcohol in it. So, which isn't always the best for your skin, but the aloe vera is really good for your skin, and it also has provitamin B5, which keeps the hair healthy. So I hold the hair about 6 inches away, the spray 6 inches away, and I get a little extra on there. And once I put it on there, I don't brush through it again. I just let it harden up. So this particular spray, it's light, but it has a good hold without being really sticky, and it'll dry really fast. And whatever product underneath, whether if you have a matte product or a wet product, it won't change the look of the product underneath as long as you don't comb it through afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and spin them around so you can take a look at the final style here. And then we'll take a close look at the blend there in that back left corner. That is the absolute key to this haircut when you're doing that transition. So the hair doesn't fall, the hair doesn't flop over, and it blends nicely to the longer hair that combs to the side. So for a quick review, we did a major transformation. We layered the top using a traveling guide. We layered from the back left corner to the side. We tapered underneath all to one length, and then we blended that back in and we cut a nice thin line. And we used 2 styling products for this particular haircut for maximum hold. We used my classic pomade from my Zorian of New York product line, and we also used my finishing spray from the Zorian of New York line.